And we are here today to discuss docket 0655, message and ordinance amending the Boston Fire Prevention Code, Article 8, hot work operations. This matter was sponsored by Mayor Martin Walsh, referred to the committee back on May the 3rd. If all recall, last year, the City Council passed similar legislation to be consistent with the state and national regulations and definitions by replacing provisions of the welding and cutting article with a more inclusive regulation of hot work. This ordinance looks to amend the Boston Fire Prevention Code to clarify several provisions, updating the terminology and ensuring consistency with current practices. And joining us today is Connie Wong, who's the Deputy Commissioner of Labor Relations, Human Resources, and Legal Affairs of the Boston Fire Department. And also we are joined by our Deputy Fire Chief, Jack Dempsey, Fire Marshal from the Boston Fire Department. So with that, I'm going to allow you to open, and then we'll have a little Q&A and try to get this moving quickly as possible.
Great. Thank you, Councilor. Thank you for hosting this hearing. As you indicated, last summer we passed the ordinance to amend Article 8 to include hot works, and a key part of that ordinance was the hot work certification program that the Boston Fire Department, working in conjunction with the National Fire Protection Association, spearheaded. And based on that, we've got a lot of positive feedback from the contractors, and working with that ordinance in the last nearly a year now, it's come to our attention that we need to streamline and clarify a number of the other provisions in the article to make it simplified and easier to read for the contractors. So with that, I will turn it over to Chief Jack Dempsey. He can give you more updates on what we're working on as well as what we are asking to clarify today.
Thank you, Connie, and welcome, Chief. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council. Thank you for having us here today. As Connie mentioned, we passed the ordinance last year, and there's been a lot of progress since then. And I'll just go over some of the numbers that we have. The NFPA has trained 16,316 members since mid-October. That's when we started the training. Out of that, 13,979 are union workers and 2,337 are non-union. I've been working closely with the NFPA to make sure that the course is kept relevant to all the trades. One of the other things we had to do was we found out as we were going along, we had to make this multilingual. So one thing that we kind of got caught off guard with. But so since when we found that out, the NFPA translated this into Spanish, Vietnamese, European Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese, and we're actually looking at Russian and Ukrainian now. As the need gets for any language, we'll cross that when it happens. But, the other surprising thing, not surprising to us, where this is not just a local problem, it happens everywhere. We're getting multiple cities from around the country showing interest, and even from outside the country that we found at the NFPA conference last week or 2 weeks ago. Cities like Nashville, Seattle, New York City, and San Francisco, just to name a couple. So it's getting attention. Also had some good conversation with the insurance industry. They're very interested in it. They certainly see the value of stopping fires. Hot works is a pretty common fire on the construction site. So, and we will be bringing this course to the State Fire Marshal very soon, and hoping to expand it out to the rest of the state. A lot of the people that come here to work are not from the city of Boston, so we're getting companies from Rhode Island and whatever, and they're all, so they all need the training. So we think it's going pretty good. From the city's point, so in fiscal year 2017, we've issued 2,989 hot work permits. and we expect that to continue to rise. 2016, we did 2,645. So,
Any violations, chief?
yeah, we always run into violations. If I can get 8,000 of these 16,000 people to practice what they preach, we've made drastic improvement.
And is the violations just been ignorance that there's this
we-
ordinance, or is it just the precipitous business practices and?
Well, there is a
Fast
time
and loose.
frame that we had to implement this. We had to give people time to get trained, and that we've been training nonstop, and we're up to 16,000. So the logistics of doing that. So we're still coming across people who don't have the course, but we're pushing that. We ticket them, we stop the job, or and make them get somebody that's had the course to be there. So out of all these hot work permits and everything can be applied for online through the new portal, which has been great. 81% of the permits applied for we issue within one day, and 89% are issued within 3 days of applying. So we think that's pretty good. It moves the jobs along. People aren't waiting tied up in red tape. Over the course of this past year, we've collected $363,000 in fees just for the permitting part. That's not counting the ticketing part. So those are the numbers right now, and so I was gonna move on from here into Article 8, and as last year when we tried to write in what was done, we found a lot of not conflicts, but it just didn't read well, and a lot of items that we missed, and none of them are game changes, but I thought it was necessary that we come back and change the wording in the article so that what we want to do is make sure when people pick this up and read it, that it's very clear and concise and there's no confusion. So we're trying to make it customer friendly.
Yep. Right.
Easier for the constituents.
So, Counselor, as the ordinance proposal reads, for each section that we wish to amend, it's laid out fairly clearly and concisely. Do you wish to go through each of them?
Yeah, we might as well, just for the interest of the public, for those that are viewing at home and for those in attendance. But and then I have the hard copies, which I'll share with colleagues prior to our vote. But yeah, if we can run through them quickly, that'd be great.
So I have the city ordinance, the proposed ordinance. You have the what the article will look like when it's completed, and then I have broken down into justifications for each change.
Okay.
So what I thought we'd do is start with Section 1 of the ordinance, and we'll go through each one. So Section 1, 8.03A, we deleted welding and cutting and changed it to hot work. And the original order, it didn't take into account whether it was cutting and welding or welding and cutting. So just a simple switch, but that's what that change was. And that was made in a couple of places.
Okay.
So that takes care of Section 1.
Good.
Section 2, we deleted course completion, and we basically felt that the term course completion doesn't indicate that there's a level of certification that's been achieved. So if somebody takes the course and they flunk the test, they haven't,
Are there multiple levels of certification, or is it just one certification?
No, it's just the one certification, but there is a test required to pass.
Okay.
Section 3, 803B, deleted under individual job authorization issued by the hot work operation contractor. We removed that because it's an automatic condition of the permit.
Duplicative. Okay.
Well, a lot of this is trying to just make it briefer and clearer. Section 4, 803B, deleted hot work fire watcher, and in its place, an NFPA hot work safety certification. That was changed to reflect the proper terminology, which is the addition of a hot work safety certification.
And how many NFPA hot work safety certified, like how many out there? Like a hot fire watcher, we have them by the dozens. Is that a business in and of itself, or is that us? Is that a deputy or
How many
a
people have been
lieutenant?
certified?
Yeah,
16,000.
All of them have
Those
to be
are
certified.
everybody
Gotcha.
who's actually doing hot work or doing a fire watch.
so I'm thinking like a hot work fire watcher is someone that works
hot-
for the city or someone that's a firefighter that's trained. This is that anyone that's in that business has to have this certification
That's
in order to do it.
That's correct. So the difference between, a lot of people do get that term
Right.
mixed up, thinking that it's a paid fire detail.
Right. But I'm assuming that anyone that's doing welding, do we have a fire detail on these jobs or not?
According to the NFPA 51B, the standard, if you're doing hot work, you're required to have a fire watch. But it's not always a paid fire detail. And I'll give you an example why. On a brand new building that's coming up from the ground up, they may get a 6-month permit, hot work permit.
Mhm.
At the beginning of the project, it's a hole in the ground. There's really nothing to burn, even though they're doing hot work.
Gotcha.
It's all metal. So we can't waste people on the
Right.
project.
But the minute that the hot work starts, does that trigger firefighter coming over on a detail to?
No, it triggers our review. We
Okay.
review every hot work project. So this building starting from beginning, we would go out and look and say, oh, yeah, it's a building from
Right.
from scratch. It doesn't require a detail right now.
Do we have the ability, if it did require a detail, do we have the ability to staff appropriately, or would we be
Yes.
Yes, we would always, what this does, and it doesn't change the past practice of the fire watch, there's always been the ability for the fire department to review every single permit application and determine, is it necessary for a firefighter to be there, to be that watch?
What's coming to mind for me, very similar with the council working with the mayor, we passed for the police department, allowing retirees to perform sort of pay details up until a certain age. We have experienced, trained individuals who, for no fault of their own, turn, say, 65, and they have to retire, but they're still very capable. This may be something that we may want to talk about, having an opportunity to have retired firefighters come back and perform, a pay detail to help supplement their retirement income.
I
And
think
this may be
that's-
an area where, having hot work certification where a retiree, very capable and able, wants to still stay affiliated with the city and the department, could participate at that level. That might be something we can talk about.
Yeah,
I
that's certainly a
think-
discussion for down the line, yes.
Yes, I agree. I think that's something definitely we should look at.
Because a lot of details in the city, particularly around the construction sites, they're going unmanned, and there's no cost to the city. We actually get service fee, and the companies are paying for the details. So if anything, we generate opportunities from the permitting portion of it, as opposed to just letting it go. And so every day in the city of Boston, hundreds of details are going unfilled. And so that was the impetus behind looking at taking retired police officers and having them. This is very similar to that. I mean, sure that you guys, there's a lot of fire details probably that also go unmanned just because the demand and busy city and lots of stuff happening. And then to add on top of this may be an opportunity to revisit that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are days where we're tight on finding people to do them. There's on an average 65 details a day for hot work alone. So
65? So there's about 65 hot works projects going on in the city?
there's more permits out there than that, but not always. They may not be doing hot work that specific
Particular
day.
day.
The
All right.
permit could go for 6 months. But once, like I was starting to say, once the building starts getting enclosed and the hazard becomes larger, then we take a closer look, and we always revisit the projects and determine
Right.
when every.
Because every single construction site, it's always fluid.
Right.
So things are always
Right.
happening in a different pace. So it relies on the fire department to work very closely with a lot of the contractors out there.
Right.
And our fire inspectors are out there every day
Right.
visiting various sites. And once you keep that line of communication open, then you could probably do a better job at looking when do we really need the firefighter as a detail.
Right.
And, keep that communication open and take it day by day.
And the impetus behind this was the Beacon Street fire. I'm really assuming that that was obviously a building that was fully constructed. There was doing some rehab work, and then was this welding
Right, that
pair of
was
stairs or a fence, or what were they doing?
yeah. They were. So what happened there? Two major factors in that brought about that fire was, number one, it was a contractor, small welding company, doing hot work on the rear of the building without a permit or a detail, which both would have been required with the work they were doing. The second thing was the environmental conditions, the wind that day, just, blowing 60-mile-an-hour winds blowing off of the Charles River right towards the building. Both those conditions would have been enough for us to say, you're not doing hot work today.
And
So-
will these regulations on a windy day,
The-
is that something that's taken
This
into
course
consideration?
has addressed both of those.
Gotcha.
And
And it should be
that's-
noted, obviously, that Lieutenant Walsh and firefighter Kelly lost their lives in that fire, and
Yes,
thoughts and prayers continue to remain with them and their families
they were the catalyst for this,
behind this.
unfortunately. The two statistics we didn't need.
Right.
So, and fire watcher was the term used years ago in the original, and that's since been changed to fire watch. So it's
When I
very,
when I read the words hot work fire watcher, I immediately think of a firefighter on a detail, observing, making sure that,
yeah,
no combustion.
a little bit
this here,
further
but
on.
in this, in this instance here, it's an NFPA hot work safety certification, which could be just the civilian rank and file person that works for a company that does welding,
Yeah, and
but they have the certification.
some of these hot work projects don't require Boston Fire paid detail on it. It may be a small, let's say a plumber. We don't permit plumbing jobs.
Yep.
They're doing hot work though, according to
Right.
the new
Yep.
regulation. I can't give permits for a plumber that's going to 5 different properties
Right.
today
You're right.
and have somebody follow them around. So, but they are still required. They're doing hot work, so they're required to have a fire watch.
Okay.
And this training is to make them aware of it. They're required to have this training also.
Okay. All right. Moving
Does that
along
make
to-
sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Okay, so moving on, section 5, 803.8.03B. Once again, course completion. We removed that for the same reason. Yeah, sorry. Section 6, 8.03B, we deleted and required because it is elimination of redundant terms.
Okay.
8.03B, we deleted paid fire detail and replaced it with the term fire watch. And we did that for consistency in terminology. But if you look at in the article that how it's going to come out,
Yep.
and we go to 803B, and I'll just read that because we had a few changes here. The way it's going to read, it's going to come out pretty simple and clear. No person shall serve as a fire watch unless he holds an NFPA hot work safety certification or equivalent certification as determined by the head of the fire department, or is an authorized member of the Boston Fire Department employed as a fire watch. So that would have been, at one point, was a paid detail.
Okay.
And
All right.
so that seemed pretty clear.
Yep.
I would,
It comes.
We go on to Section 8, 8.03C, and we deleted "he may prescribe" and replaced it with "may be prescribed," and it's just the gender neutral.
Correction.
8.03C, this is Section 9. We deleted "two classes of," and the reason is two classes have now been reduced to the one certification. At one point, there was a certificate of competency for welders, and there was also a certificate for fire watchers.
Okay.
So we've reduced that to one.
Yep.
Section 10, 8.03C, we deleted "as determined by the head of the fire department," and that was for brevity of language. Section 11, 8.03D, insert after all NFPA Hot Works Safety Certification, and deleted for NFPA Hot Works Safety Certification. It sounds confusing, but it was actually clarity when you read the completed, what it's going to look like in the end. Section 12, this was kind of a bigger section that we worked on, and we deleted we changed the title and the whole section, and it's basically the old one was talking more about the fire detail in there and the fire watch, and it was confusing on who was responsible for what. And job authorization is, which we titled it now, we made it clear. So 8.04A will now, it gives the property owner's authorization. So the property owner's gonna have work done, hot work done. They know exactly what they need to do. They know the letter they need to provide and what we're looking for. Section B of that is a definition for the contractor's responsibilities, which is a little more in-depth that we need. All we're looking from the owner of the building is, I'm giving this contractor permission to do work in my building, basically.
Does it have to state hot works in my building, or just work?
Yes, it's authorizing them to do hot work.
Okay.
And the definitions on the permit, we ask for more detailed information that would come
If you
from
could
the
just
contractor.
bring me back to Beacon Street again, was there some of the finger pointing between the contractor and the homeowner, or vice versa, or?
We were just trying to make it a little easier on everybody and
you had
clearer.
mentioned, right, and the I would assume you had reached out to the insurance industry. The insurance industry, this brings some clarity, probably from their perspective too, as to whether or not they're going to cover a claim and or not.
So what was difficult with the property owner was if them trying to give details that they don't know anything about,
Right.
that the contractor was doing. They know they're welding, but then they don't know that we have to put up railings for this, or a lot of things that they don't know, or even the type of welding that they're doing. And it just gets confusing for the property owner, and I think it's easier for them to say, we hired them to do the job, and we're authorizing them to do the job. Now, when the contractor fills out the permit, they're going to tell us exactly what they're doing, and then we go out and we check to make sure.
Gotcha.
And it would be more efficient for the city to do its job too, because now everyone's on notice, the owner, the contractor, and the city. Then there's that three-way communication, as opposed to just the department and a contractor, and the owner might not know anything about it.
Well, one of the other things is, so the way I looked at it
Does this
is,
cover Chief, does this cover subcontractors too?
yes.
Okay.
Well, it's whoever subcontractor depends on who's pulling the contract.
Okay.
I mean, the subcontractor's working for the contractor, so
Right.
they're covered. The other thing we didn't want to do, if the property owner says they're working on the roof, and then they find out they got to do work on the first floor too, now there's a conflict there,
Gotcha.
and we want them to have to come in and redo the letter and go through
Yep.
the whole process again.
Okay.
So trying to make it run
Streamlined,
smooth
yep.
for everybody and cover everybody.
Okay.
Section 13. Okay, we deleted where fire watch is required. We changed the title for clarity, and it basically changed it to conditions and requirements for fire watch. Section 14. It's 8.05, and first paragraph, we deleted it in its entirety and rewrote it to make it clear.
Yep.
So if you want, I'll read it.
No,
or-
it's pretty
okay.
straightforward.
Section 15, 8.05B, we added falling slag, embers, and other sources of heat. It's just an expansion of the definition.
What is slag?
Slag is if you're welding and the pieces are hot, or you're cutting and the little pieces of hot metal that fall
Come
off. Section 16, 8.05D, we added convection to describe, the original one only had two forms of heat transfer, and to be correct, there's three, so we added convection to that.
Okay.
Section 17, 8.05, the last paragraph, we deleted that in its entirety and rewrote it for clarity purposes, just to make sure it's clear. Section 18, 19, and 20 all fall under this next section, 8.06, and it's all, once again, changing cutting and welding and replacing to hot work. Those weren't covered in Section 2 of the ordinance that was passed.
So those are
last
new additions?
Yeah, it's, like I said, it was saying welding and cutting, and now it's, the parts that's saying cutting in.
Yep.
I'm getting confused, going back and forth. Okay, so we'll move on to Section 21, 8.06B. Once again, we deleted for clarity arc welding and cutting. Didn't feel that was necessary to word it that way. Section 22 is 8.06E. Deleted in its entirety and replaced with the last sentence there, hot tapping and other hot work. And we made, once again, for clarity. Section 23, 8.07, A, B, C, D, and E. Once again, cutting and welding, we had to replace it with hot work. Section 24, 8.07A, we deleted after owner, tenant, or general contractor, and the hot work contractor. We did that for clarity purposes. Section 25, 26, and 27, we made changes with the wording and whatever all to reinforce Section 8.04A. Section 28, 8.07C, we deleted with air for clarity. It's saying the original one said dust with air. I don't know of too much dust where there isn't air involved. So, Section 29, 8.08A, we deleted liquefied petroleum gas because LPG is not allowed in buildings currently. Section 30, 8.08E, that was a typo. We changed hot to not. And lastly was Section 31, which was 8.09A, and once again, we deleted liquid petroleum gas, which is LPG, and it's not allowed in buildings.
Okay.
And
Very good. All pretty straightforward changes. some a little more in-depth than others, but for the most part, the common theme is sort of clarity and some additions where, that were not.
Yeah, we just
included
wanted to
and spoken for.
clarify who's responsible for what, and once again, we wanted so that it was easy to read for people.
And Chief, can you just explain the process for certification for the NFPA Hot Work Safety Certification? How long is that course? What does it entail for those viewing at home?
So it's a course run and monitored by the NFPA. It's a 2-hour course in person right now, and there's a test that follows. It's a one-time event unless we have an incident with you. That's up to us to decide whether or not to. We have the ability to pull that certification at any time and make you redo the course. So we're hoping that people put to practice what we're teaching them, and if they do, we'll have a much safer construction record within the city.
Very good. I see that there are representatives from Local 718 just here to obviously offer support, or at least to be here and to be observing for purposes of their membership. So good to see folks from 718 here. And if there's anyone wishing to offer public testimony, they may do so now. Seeing and hearing no takers. Pretty straightforward stuff, Chief and Connie. I'll make sure I'll get these copies through staff to my colleagues, but it's all straightforward stuff. It's an opportunity for us to enhance what was put in place last year to prevent horrific fires like we saw on Beacon Street, whether it's a small construction project, a big construction project. My hope is that we'll keep an eye towards having firefighter details on that, trained and experienced firefighters that can recognize those types of situations before they get out of hand, and there may be an opportunity for our retirees to sort of fit the bill there if that's an opportunity through the department. So
Yeah, I want to take this moment to just thank the council for all their support in this. We need your backing, and this is what puts teeth behind us. Without the ordinance, it would be very difficult to get compliance. So that makes a big difference.
And so my commitment will be to get this thing turned around and get this before the council for a vote as soon as possible, and get it over to the mayor for a signature so that we can have it on the books to protect the citizenry, but also to protect the men and women that run into those situations when things break down. And in this situation, they break down pretty quickly. So that said, it's great to see you, Chief. Great to see you, Connie. And with respect to Docket 0655, message and ordinance amending the Boston Fire Prevention Code, Article 8, Hot Work Operations, Committee on Government Operations is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.